the mindset. Ay, back with a vengeance, back on the grinds, back to the business. Ay, God is my witness, they watching my moves like shows they binging. Ay, best keep distance, all of my haters send best of wishes. I get to the bag with the quickness, no I don't need no assistance, no. Yeah, no playing it safe, I said let's get it, you say not today. What can I say, you ain't gon' go for it, get out the way. Yeah, got no time to waste, can't be with me if you not at my pace. You not at my level, you not in my race. One foot on the gas, I'm pushing the brakes. Dancing with the devil, there's no recital. I'm killing competition, ain't no revival. I shoot it to kill it, I'm aiming for vitals. I'm showing no mercy when facing my rivals. Snakes in the grass, they getting exposed. I know they be lurking, I'm watching them close. Acting like friends, but really they foes. Saw they was scheming and said adios. Get it, don't mindset.
Seven races done. We're approaching the final stage of this iRacing IndyCar Open Championship. We've seen plenty of action, but we head to America's premier short track for what is bound to be a helter-skelter evening here under the nightlights at the Richmond Raceway. Hello everyone, and welcome back to RaceSpotTV, where my name is Arjuna Kankipati. Clearly a tired Arjuna Kankipati after a very busy weekend with the Esports Racing World Cup. Joined as always by Andrew Kinsella, and you can follow along with live timing and scoring powered by our partners at Timing71 by heading to racespot.wtf/Indy. Well, Andrew, the second short track on our schedule. This one is very different, though, to Iowa. Short tracks are not all the same, but this is what we love about IndyCar. You go racing on the street courses, you go racing on the road courses, then you've got your crown jewel ovals such as Indianapolis Motor Speedway, but today it's about Richmond.
Yeah, very different challenge awaiting these drivers here today at Richmond Speedway. As you say, it's just the things that you can do at Iowa, the side-by-side action, it's much, much different here today. the passes that you're going to see here today, where in Iowa they were going side by side through the corners, here you really need to get most of your racing done on these short straightaways. It's a very short, very tight track, and it's going to produce a lot of action. I think here today we've got a smaller field today, again, just with how the splits worked out, but I think that it's still going to be pretty big on action here tonight.
And one thing to note, the way we're going to close this season off is by visiting staples of IndyCar action over the years. Of course, next week we'll be at Watkins Glen for our penultimate road race, but plenty of fascinating venues still left on the horizon. Here's how the championship is shaking up right now. Adam Blocker is starting to run away very slightly, but again, remember, you do have to factor in the drop weeks that will come into the equation. 12-week championship, only the best 8 of your points totals will count. It is still power slide 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Some interesting battles back in the pack. Look at David Porcelli and Robin Glennick, 6 points separating them. We're at that point of the championship, though, Andrew, where, like I said, this is where the drop weeks start to factor into the equation. And, next week, things will look very, very different when we start adding those in. Can't hear you right now, Andrew, unfortunately. The wonders of live broadcasting. Still waiting to hear from Andrew Kinsella. He will get himself sorted and ready to go for what is going to be, like I said, a helter-skelter race. It is a long one, depending on how you look at it, over 150 laps. But when lap times are down in the 17-second bracket, it is going to be fast. It is going to be frenetic. Here's a look at the track right now. You can see the sun is setting, and hopefully by the time that we finish, we will be racing under the night lights. But with that said, we are ready to race. Let's go trackside here and the action track to take a look at the starting grid for today's round 8 in the iRacing IndyCar Open Championship. And on pole position, Andrew Marquez has pulled a blinder of a qualifying lap. A 17.269. He'll line up alongside Robert Malechka, 200ths off the pace. Championship leader and defending champion Adam Blocker will line up to the inside of Andrew Wood, while Will Lyon and Alexander Van der Sant complete the top 6 in this field. Aaron McQuarrie and Alexis Newsom, row number 4, while Brian Spots and David Porcelli through the top 10, Laura Gerhardt and Adam Frazier on row number 6. Trevor Greenfield, the last car, setting a qualifying lap time. Carl Schmidt will roll off 14th and final in our starting grid here today. And, well, Andrew Kinsella, what are we expecting here today? 14 cars, yes, it's a small field, but this is a track that invites chaos. It will invite some action as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're going to see a lot, especially early on in the race, a lot of desperation from some of these drivers. I think that it's going to be very important to get track position early on in the race and early on in these runs. We're probably going to see a yellow flag or 2 towards the beginning of this race, but hopefully once these cars get settled in and the drivers are a little bit more comfortable adjusting their cars and adjusting their lines throughout the course of the runs, we're going to get some nice green flag runs as well, and these laps will just fly by once we get some green flag running in.
Let's talk about the difficulty of coming down onto pit lane here, Andrew, because we've seen plenty of occasions here, not just, of course, at Richmond, but across of short tracks like this. It is not easy to slow yourself down in time, especially now that we're running a little bit less downforce than we may have done in the past.
Absolutely. It is so tricky here around Richmond. You have such a narrow pit entry here. Basically, what you have to do is you have to enter the track or enter the apron going into turn 3, and you have to make sure that your car doesn't wash back up or doesn't spin out back onto the racing surface, because if that happens, you are likely going to be right in the path of one of these other drivers, and it can end in disaster. So very, very tricky pit in. Also equally tricky is the pit out. There's a very big bump on the exit of turn 2, and it's very easy to also get the power down just that little bit too much and spin coming out of pit lane. So it's going to be very interesting to see if all of these drivers can make it through a pit cycle unscathed.
And because it's such a short lap here, we are going to get an additional lap under pacing. You want to know about this track? Well, 0.7 miles in length, 14 degrees of banking in the turns, 8 degrees of banking on the front straight, 2 degrees on the back. How is this going to be in terms of what lines we'll see the drivers take, Andrew?
Yeah, I think that it's going to be a fairly narrow line through the corner. There is more of the ability to run on that second lane through turns 1 and 2 than there is in 3 and 4. But as the run goes on and as these tires wear out, I think clean air will be pretty key here. So searching for that clean air and maybe running some unconventional lines, I think will be seen as the race goes on.
160 laps on the board, only 14 cars. How long will we go green? Will we see green flag pit stops? We're about to find out. Happy to have your company here on RaceSpotTV. Andrew Marquez is in control of the field as we go racing at the premier short track in America. Adam Blocker already to the inside of his teammate as he tries to get his way up into second. All 14 cars safely through turns 1 and 2. But here they come ducking and diving. Blocker slides in front of Robert Malechka.
Really nice start there from Adam Blocker. He knew that he had to get right after it to really take a hold of this race. Meanwhile, Andrew Wood looking to the bottom of Robert Malechka. Malechka's been caught out a little bit on the high side, but you see his teammate behind him running the very high line through turns 1 and 2. That was Alexander Van de Sant. So already drivers sort of looking for that clean air and trying to find the best way around this track.
Side by side further back is now Malechka from second down to fourth. Will Lyon tries to look to the inside of Alexander Van de Sant, who did get the jump in that white and purple. Did Malechka just bobble off the wall there? It did look as though he ran very high up the track, and, well, good qualifying performance, but already about a 6-car length difference between third and fourth positions here.
Yeah, a little bit of, I think, uncertainty here from Robert Malechka, which we're not really used to seeing from him on the ovals. He's done so well on the oval track so far this year, but this really does look like he's not quite comfortable with this car and with this track right now as we watch his teammate Alexander Van de Sant looking to the inside of Robert Malechka. The teammates going side by side. Malechka holds the outside really nicely there, but I think that, I think right now Malechka's been a little bit swarmed at the beginning of this race, so his big thing right now is just going to be to try and find some clean air, settle down a little bit, maybe regroup, get his lines back, and get back into the rhythm of this track and this run.
On board with the new Indy Alliance driver, Will Lyon. We've seen him be plenty strong on road courses, not necessarily running as much on the ovals, but now with that new Team Alliance, will we see him make increasing inwards into comfort, into pace here in what makes IndyCar so exciting, the multiple different disciplines that you have to deal with. Alexis Newsom mixed up with Carl Schmidt, but the caution has not flown just yet, and I think we may stay green here. Carl Schmidt takes the tow back to pit road. Alexis Newsom doesn't look like that car has too much damage, and she'll get it back up to speed.
Yeah, the new iRacing caution dynamics were definitely forgiving on that one, Arjuna. Yeah, definitely not the start that either of them wanted there. We'll have to see the replay to figure out exactly what happened, but it looked like I think Newsom just got in there a little too tail happy. Schmidt really had nowhere to go. I think he kind of came in sort of afterwards and lost it in reaction to Newsom, but yeah, it's very easy with the setups the way they are. If you try to get the car to rotate, because the car or the tires are going to go off on the front of your car way before the rear, but especially at the beginning of the run, that's a very fine line that you have to be fighting throughout the course of the run to really ride the adjustments and make sure the car isn't too loose, and you do exactly what Alexis Newsom did there.
Well, one retiree from the race, and Carl Schmidt has not just headed back to pit lane, he's headed out of the track. So 14 becomes 13. We're watching as Andrew Wood puts the pressure onto Adam Blocker at the front of the field. We've seen Andrew Wood, especially, for example, in the Classic IndyCar Series, very, very rapid here at Richmond, finished on the podium when the CIS Series brought the IRO5s under the night lights here, and now goes to work on trying to get a move done. Also a move now forthcoming as Alexander Van de Sant will slide to the inside, get past his teammate, now has the 1.7 seconds in front. This is where, if you're Malechka, Andrew, you settle into the rhythm. You let the race start to come to you.
Yeah, absolutely. But he can't settle in too much right now because Will Lyon is still right behind him, and I know that will definitely be pressuring Malechka. And we'll have to see if there is any damage from that maybe slight graze of the wall that happened earlier on. But Looking back towards P2 and Adam Blocker and Andrew Wood here, Andrew Wood is putting Blocker under an enormous amount of pressure. And I must say, Arjuna, that Team Talent car is looking really, really strong. He's following basically closer than almost anyone else on the track right now.
We have seen these Team Talent short setup cars, or short oval cars, be set up nicely on the ovals. I'm not entirely shocked that we're seeing that again. Riding on board, you can see this is one of the tracks where you're really using the gears from 6th down to 3rd, I think, there for Andrew Wood. Only gets up to 5th on these back straightaways, but this is a track, Andrew, where you're actually braking sometimes in towards the corners.
Yeah, we have such low downforce on this package, and it really does mean that you're driving the car in every corner. Sometimes viewers and critics will say that you don't have to drive an IndyCar too much on an oval. First of all, I disagree with that analogy entirely, but you really can't say that at a place like Richmond, because you are doing so much to control the car, not just with your inputs in terms of steering, in terms of pedals, both pedals in this case, but also in terms of the weight jacker and riding a really fine line over a place like this, especially as the tires go off. It's really a driver's track in terms of the oval tracks.
I believe we might have heard from Tony Kanaan a couple of years ago. This might be his favorite track in all of IndyCar history. And of course, we haven't seen IndyCar racing too much here of late, but hopefully maybe we'll see the IRA teams return very shortly. Malechka just falling back. I do think he must have run himself up into the wall, because he is, give or take, about 1.4 seconds back now from Van der Sande, who is closing on this battle for 2nd and 3rd. So maybe there's some damage, but maybe at a track like this, Andrew, you're also falling behind on your tools. We say this over and over again. You need to be proactive with the ARBs and the weight jacker rather than reacting to what the car is doing.
Absolutely, and the other thing to keep in mind is with this tire model especially, if you make a mistake and you sort of use up your tires a little bit too early on in the race, that can have a detrimental knock-on effect for you for the rest of your stint. So it could just be that Malechka is just suffering with his tires and he hasn't been able to find a way to get them back under him. So he might just be sort of biding his time waiting for this next pit stop, but if he does have damage and if it's not repairable on this pit stop, it's going to be a long night for Robert Malechka.
And you think how quick these laps are. 18 seconds now. We've gone up about 3/10 from the fastest laps of the race. Marquez making full advantage, taking full advantage of the fresh air that he's got right now. About 8/10 clear of your championship leader and the defending champion as we work our way on towards lap 24. You can do this race on a one-stop pit stop, Andrew, but the reality is tires are going to wear, and it's somewhat inevitable, knocking on the wood, that we will see a caution at some point today.
Yeah, I do think that at some point we will see a caution, but I will say that you mentioned how much Marquez was enjoying the clean air. He's not enjoying very much clean air anymore because he is coming right up on the back of Alexis Newsom, and we're very quickly here going to see just how well that car works in traffic now that he's doing that.
There you get a good look as he is getting reeled in very slightly by Blocker. Not that last lap, he was still about 0.5 quicker, but car is now searching for some clean air. We always talk about putting the clean air onto the nose of these cars. He's gone up a groove, just searching for it, diamonding the corner. What is he going to do? There are some battles now that will start to play a bit of a factor in this race itself. We'll take a look at the track map here. Marquez comes across the line. Newsom, of course, not far in front. You can see cars are beginning to be spread across of the 0.75 miles here, and once you start getting into traffic, there's a couple more cars up the road here, Andrew.
Yeah, once you get into traffic, it really never stops unless you get a caution. So I think for the rest of this race on out, it's definitely going to be the case where these drivers have got to find some clean air, got to figure out exactly how to move through this traffic well, and we're already seeing that Adam Blocker and Andrew Wood are just ever so slightly inching it back towards Andrew Marquez, and I just don't think that he's quite got it figured out yet. But that being said, Alexis Newsom will probably also be doing everything she can right now to use her clean air advantage and to stay on the lead lap, because once you go down a lap, it's very hard to get it back.
No lucky dogs, no wave arounds will come and save you here, and the onus really is, especially when that car is still on the lead lap, for the leader to work his way past. Once you're one lap down, then you somewhat expect, Andrew, the cars to make your life a little bit easier. Newsom's not going to do that at this point in the race.
No, and she has every right to try and stay on the lead lap, especially given what happened earlier with that unfortunate incident. Now that she's gotten the car back under and she really seems to be going at a decent pace, she really is entitled to fight as hard as she can to stay on this lead lap, because anything can happen in a race like this. You're never really out of it at a place like Richmond, so you definitely don't generally find the lap traffic, at least the first time around, being too helpful. But that being said, Newsom is giving some room for Marquez, and it looks like Marquez has finally put his first car one lap down.
And now the train will follow. You don't expect Newsom to make life difficult for Blocker, who's now made a 7/10 advantage, a 3/10 advantage for the New York native. Here comes Blocker and Wood, bit by bit, chipping away at that car out front. And what a qualifying lap, it should be said, from Andrew Marquez. The Scores team, not necessarily as familiar to the regular iRacing IndyCar Oval community, but bit by bit they've been getting more comfortable. We saw Isaac Morris, for example, in the ISO WC at Road America be pretty rapid until, well, he came across a landmine that sent him up into the air and tumbling end over end, in one of my funniest moments to have commentated on in 2021. Now, white, blue, and red at the front of this field, and more traffic in front. This is where that traffic experience might start to play a bit of a factor now.
Yeah, this is where the likes of Adam Blocker and Andrew Wood, their experience in this car really will pay dividends. But that being said, Marquez has been doing a fantastic job up front. And you mentioned sort of that he's on really an up-and-coming team here. One of the things about a track like Richmond is when you understand the car at a place like Richmond, you really start to understand it at a lot of other tracks as well, because it's very, very difficult to find that thin edge that really gives you the performance advantage at a place like Richmond. And you have to be making just such minute adjustments and having such a good understanding of what adjustments are the appropriate ones. So I think that now that we've seen this type of pace from Marquez on a track like this, we can very well look to see his team really take a step forward in other tracks as well.
Laura Gerhardt has been disposed of in the green machine. Wood will get around as well. Next car in line, Adam Fraser in the number 7. As which way does Marquez go? It was a close call there. I think Fraser was trying to let Marquez have the inside, almost some miscommunication between them. Andrew Wood has to work to the inside of turn number 3, but he'll get past as well. There was a pass that we didn't see for 7th position. Trevor Greenfield in the number 13 has worked his way past Aaron McQuarrie. And this is where you talk about, you know, the apple cart somewhat being upset. Aaron McQuarrie, also part of the Scores team, likely on a very similar setup to what Andrew Marquez is on. It's a driver's track, Andrew. That's what we love about these sort of very short but very demanding tracks.
Yeah, absolutely. The driver makes such a big difference here. You can even see it over the course of the power slide drivers as well. Adam Blocker, of course, in P2, Van de Sant in P4 and 5, but you look all the way down, Laura Gerhardt's already been lapped as well. So it's one of those tracks where you have to be on top of your game in so many different aspects, and the cream really does rise to the top. And right now, that cream is Andrew Marquez, and he's at the top of this field.
Has Aaron Fraser had an issue, or is he just letting by some lap traffic? I believe it's the former. Alexis Newsom, though, has gotten past Gerhardt. She should get past Fraser as well. First car one lap down, and we're getting closer and closer, winding our way towards the pit stop window here at the Richmond Raceway, America's premier short track. Do remember as well that Richmond Raceway, they had, I should say, an esports team in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series. I still technically have a team, but now it's called Rise Esports, and you can catch the kickoff of the 2022 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series tomorrow on the iRacing Esports Network, as they have a non-points paying race at the new Clash facility inside the Coliseum. Released first on iRacing. We'll see what it races like this coming weekend in the real world, but your first taste of eNASCAR action tomorrow on iRacing Esports Network. Almost 50 laps in the books here, and We were a little bit scared, Andrew, when we saw the somewhat potential for a single split here. 26 cars at Richmond. It's an invitation for chaos where one incident might take out half the field, but with 14 cars, there was always going to be a likelihood of a long green flag run. The question really will be now, as we work our way to those pit stops, can you save a bit of fuel? Can you go in as late as possible? Can you put other cars into the danger zone? Because pitting here is not a 1-lap penalty, it's usually a 2-lap penalty.
Yeah, well, we've already seen just how busy these drivers already have been throughout the course of this stint just with 14 cars. So if you could imagine double that, it could be pure chaos with 26 cars around this track. But you're absolutely right. It's a 2-lap penalty in basically every case when you come down pit road here. So it does change the risk calculation a fair bit for these drivers. And especially with the lap time staying relatively steady right now in that 18.1, 18.2 sort of area, it hasn't, the tire hasn't fallen off quite as much as maybe some people were expecting it to. And that means that risk calculation for losing not just 1 but 2 laps changes completely. And it really means that the benefit to coming in early goes away a fair bit. So I think a lot of these drivers are going to stay out as long as they can, and what that means is that they're going to stay out on old tires, which as they go off here, it gets harder and harder to keep these things under control. So it's going to be interesting as we come up towards this first pit stop window.
It's what we love. It's the kind of things that you only get here, not just of course in the IndyCar and iRacing, but in the real world NTT IndyCar series. Gap for the lead has opened up once more. 1 second, Andrew Marquez taking full advantage after getting around some lapped vehicles. He is closing on David Porcelli, will be the next car in line. We're watching battle for 5th as bit by bit. It's not just Robert Malechka that's coming under fire, but now Will Lyon is feeling the pressure as well. Here comes Trevor Greenfield. He looked to the inside aggressively a couple of laps ago. He's currently stuck in the dirty air. How do you affect a pass here, Andrew, when you're riding behind not 1, not 2, but 3 cars?
I think for Trevor Greenfield, he's got to find a way to get a good run through one of these corners. Probably, if I'm being honest, the best way to do it is to find a way through here, through 3 and 4 to get this run. Right now, he's got the car in front of Will Lyon pinned a little bit. He puts the car bravely on the outside, forces Will Lyon to stay down, and then through turns 1 and 2 here, he's got to complete the pass, but Robert Malechka didn't give him very much clean air there. Does get the pass done, but Trevor Greenfield definitely looks like he's on the move right now.
Used the 14 degrees of banking to his advantage and now works his way up into 6th, +7 from where he qualified. He was the slowest car to put in a qualifying time. And always, qualifying pace is not indicative of race performance. Looking high above the Richmond Raceway as Alexis Newsom begins to clear off here as they work themselves in towards turn number 1. Question I see in our YouTube chat, is a 1-stop possible? I believe it is, Andrew, but you're always better when it comes to the fuel numbers than me.
Yeah, I do think a 1-stop is possible. I don't know that it's the best strategy here, but that being said, if they can get to a 1-stop, the way that the green flag is rolling right now, it's definitely... It would be close, I think, between a 1-stop and a 2-stop strategy for me if I were calling this race, but probably would try to stretch it with the 1-stop, particularly if you're in a position like Will Lyon, where he's been following the car for most of this race. I'd be putting it in fuel map 3, fuel map 4, and just sort of riding around, preserving my tires, preserving my fuel, and trying to find that advantage with that pit stop towards the end there.
And to kind of build on what you're saying, Andrew, this is probably one of the tracks where those fuel maps might really play a factor, right? Being able to bump it down out of map 1, maybe map 2, maybe map 3, just a little bit less power going through the car. You're not necessarily running too much slower. I'd be curious to hear if post-race we're seeing that from some of these cars further back in the run.
Yeah, absolutely. And because the other thing that the fuel maps do is they, by giving a little bit less power, it makes the rear of the car just settle down that little bit more, particularly the right rear. Coming out of turn 2 really just settles down a little bit more. It doesn't wear it as hard. and it keeps the car under you for longer. The other thing that we don't often talk about on oval tracks, but we will here today, is that fuel maps 6 and 7, they don't just affect fuel economy. Fuel maps 6 and 7, they have different throttle shapes. So even if we're full throttle here, we might be running in alternate fuel maps and alternate throttle shaping just to keep that car under you as long as you can.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And I don't know about you, Andrew. Personally, when we're on a road course, I like fuel map 1. I like having my right foot be in total control. But for example, our teammate Adam Blocker, he is one that likes to experiment with those alternate fuel maps. Still maximum output of the engine, but it's just that throttle adjustment. What's your thought on them? How do you like to tinker around with that?
For me, it really depends on the setup. In some cases, I like the linearity of fuel map 1, but in other cases where you just need that extra bite off the corner, or you need a little bit of extra rotation or whatever it is, you basically can have a fuel map that'll do that for you, but you have to be willing to experiment and figure out exactly which one is the most comfortable for you on a given track. And the nice thing about the IndyCar is there is no one right answer, because it's so dependent on your driving style, and so what works for Adam might not work for you. Or
just listen to the sound of these engines. You can also see from the front wings that single plane. In years past, it was double plane at some of the short tracks. An update now, it is single plane everywhere. Less downforce at the front of the car. How do you make up for that? Be it with the chassis, be it with other ways of just adjusting your line. It's that compromise that everyone has got to be dealing with. Almost getting to the halfway marker of this race, so surely getting closer and closer to the pit stop cycle. Top 5 as they run. Marquez 1.2 seconds clear of Adam Blocker and Andrew Wood, I should say. Bit of separation forming amongst the podium positions. Alexander Van der Sande at one point was looking like he was going to be able to close, but in the recent couple of laps, working the way through traffic, 1.5 seconds adrift now. The number 3 car has some work to do. We're still watching that great battle between Robert Malechka, Trevor Greenfield, and Will Line. Cerebral battling, that's what this is about. We saw Greenfield make the pass around the outside of Will Line. Will he get that same opportunity? More lap traffic in front of these cars as they close up on Alexis Newsom. Aaron McQuarrie, Brian Spots, David Porcelli, the top 10. Porcelli, the first car, 1 lap down. Alexis Newsom had a bit of a spin early in this race, but she recovered, no major damage. Laura Gerhard, Adam Fraser, final car still running. Carl Schmidt reacted to the incident with Newsom. He ran himself up into the wall after snapping sideways, a one and only retirement in this 14-car field. We've talked about the dangers of pitting in now, Andrew. As a driver, what emotions start going through you as you think about green flag stops here?
There's definitely a little bit of trepidation, but really what you're doing is you're sort of getting yourself mentally prepared. You have to make sure that maybe a couple of laps before you're coming down pit road, that you really are picking out your braking points, picking out exactly how you want to get yourself slowed down, because as we mentioned off the top, this is a very, very tricky pit in, and one of the main things that you have to do on this pit lane especially is not let your guard down when you get into the box. You have to be visualizing your pit out, and you have to be just as concentrated on pit out as you are on pit in, or else you're going to make a mistake, and it's so easy to lose it coming onto the track off of that pit lane out of turn 2. So it's definitely one of the, I would say, the trickiest pit lanes we've ever seen, as Trevor Greenfield is really looking up the back of Robert Malechka right now.
Yeah, he's got a comfortable car. I don't want to say fast car necessarily, because fast is always relative, but he's able to run much closer than what we're seeing from basically anyone else at this stage in the run, Andrew. When the tires have started to wear off, when you start having to rely on understanding what the car is going to do early into the corner, because the first thing I learned as a road driver that transitioned to doing ovals in these open wheel machines is you need to slow down before you get into the corner. If you're slowing down in the corner, it's too late. You're already losing time.
Yeah, in oval racing we call it backing up the corner, but basically what you're doing is you're lifting off and you're trying to get your rotation done as early as you possibly can in the corners, and that's even more important as the trailing car than it is as the leading car. So it's really, really important for what Trevor is doing right now is to not try and go in too deep, because all you're going to do is you're going to wear out, especially your right front, and you're never going to be able to get by the car in front of you. Is Trevor Greenfield, he got very close to the wall there, didn't he, Arjuna?
Yeah, just watch the hands right here. You saw him try and diamond down through the corner, but on the power just a little bit too early at all, I tell you. If he didn't hit the wall, it was as close to doing so as you want to be doing. This late in the run, we are halfway through the race, so you can go from here with a pit stop. Will we see drivers undercut, or will we see drivers try and extend this, stay out of the danger zone? Adam Fraser, who was already 2 laps down, does come down to pit. Will we see maybe Trevor Greenfield go for the undercut as, well, he's just starting to slow down very slightly. Look how close Will Lyon got to him coming through turns 1 and 2.
Yeah, it's such close action here, and this is where your tires are just crying to be changed at this point, Arjuna. They're really coming towards the end of their life cycle, even though the lap times themselves haven't dropped out. Oh no!
Greenfield into the wall. Did he take out Will Lyon? Does Lyon have damage? That will be the question. Once more, though, caution doesn't fly. Greenfield straight down to pit lane. No major surprise. He misses pit entry as well. Look how close it got with the race leaders.
Yeah, Greenfield had left front damage, so if Will Lyon got through it, it was through the iRacing gods' grace there, because definitely Greenfield did have some left front suspension damage, so it have seemed like Will Lyon should have also been damaged there, but it does look like Will has escaped any major damage. But we are right in the middle of the pit stop cycle now, with Robert Malechka and Alexander Van de Sande on pit lane right now.
Yep, the 2 Powerslide Motorsports cars do indeed come down. They're followed in by David Porcelli. Will we see the leader, the man who put it on pole position, make his way down to the lane as well? We'll take a look at maybe what happened to Trevor Greenfield in a moment as Van de Sande's rolling himself off of pit lane. 13.6 seconds. That would indicate to me that he had a front wing change there, Andrew.
Yep, I think he definitely did have a little bit of a change there, so that could mean that Robert Malechka will be a little bit faster on this next stint, but at the same time it's meant that Alexander Van de Sande did come out in front there, so definitely a big change in the order there. But up front here, if I'm Adam Blocker, I'm seriously considering coming down pit lane sooner rather than later, just to try and get maybe 3 or 4 laps of an undercut. But oh, looking at that replay, no, caution is out. Caution is out.
And we talked about the danger zone. What has just happened? I believe it was Aaron McQuarrie, who has already had to come down in pit lane, has had an issue. And now for Andrew Wood, for Alex Van de Sande, for Malechka, well, things have changed around. And I tell you, Andrew Wood may have been the luckiest man of them all here, Andrew. I see what I did there, and I confused myself. Andrew and Andrew. But he's only 1 lap down. Van de Sande and Malechka, they're 2 laps down here.
Yeah, if anyone has escaped the wrath of the iRacing gods, it is Andrew Wood right now, but he's still going to be at the tail end of the lead lap when this all shakes out, when he gets his wave around here. But this is why you go long, Arjuna. Andrew Marquez, Adam Blocker, they will basically be in the catbird seat from a strategy perspective. As you see, the car just got loose there, didn't it? It was almost the same thing that we saw with Alexis Newsom. He just entered the corner, and immediately on turn in, the back end just sort of washes away. Wasn't able to save that one, unfortunately, and day done for Aaron McQuarrie there.
Yeah, I mean, once the car's gone, it's gone. There was nothing McQuarrie could do. Unfortunate incident, and it brings out the first caution of the day. How, though, is this going to change the lead lap picture? Because Newsom and Gerhardt are classified on the leading lap, but they have not come down to pit. They will owe us a pit stop. Will they do it under this caution cycle? If they want to stay on the lead lap, they're not going to be able to. They'll be hoping that cautions breed cautions. In fact, they come both of them. They will end up going 1 lap down. Van de Sande will get a lap back, so he will actually still be on the lead lap, as will Malechka, if I'm seeing this correctly.
No, Van de Sande and Malechka will both be
1 lap down.
1 lap down.
Yes.
David Porcelli will be 2 laps down, and Adam Fraser will be 3 laps down. So Van de Sande and Malechka will join Newsom and Gerhardt 1 lap down here on this restart.
Well, It changes just like that. Talk about a danger zone, Andrew. That's the prime example of why it's so dangerous to pit early here. Again, you lose 2 laps because there's a 34 second trip down pit lane, and that doesn't include the time slowing down and getting back up to speed in and out of pit lane. Lap times here, 18 odd seconds. Going long for Andrew Marquez, even though it may have opened the door for a potential undercut. Well, it was the right strategy, it turns out.
Yeah, it's amazing how rolling the dice goes both ways in situations like this. Because if Marquez hadn't come in for much longer, and the likes of Andrew Wood or Adam Blocker had come in, and a caution didn't come out, it very easily could have upset his lead. But at the same time, he is now in the perfect position for this restart here. He's going to be out front. That being said, Adam Blocker, we know just how hungry he is to keep this power slide dominance alive. So it's going to be, I think, all that Andrew Marquez can do to keep the power slide driver right behind him for this restart.
Adam Frazier makes his way onto pit lane, as I do believe we'll go back to racing next time by. So Van der Sant and company will get cycled through. Watch out for Will Lyon as well. He's looking good. He is looking very, very good. What will he be able to do now, running up in 3rd? Brian Spott's another big winner. He'll be +5, still on the lead lap. It'll be Andrew Wood trying to carve his way up into the podium once more. And we know just how quick he can be on the short tracks. Lights are off. This is going to be a frenetic start. Adam Blocker has to time this to perfection.
Yep, everything rides on this restart for Adam Blocker. If he can get on the inside of Andrew Marquez, all bets are off, but it's all down to this for Adam Blocker.
Will that be our one and only caution? We're about to find out. Green flag back out, and Blocker straight on the charge, looking to the inside in towards turn number 1. He's not going to be able to get the speed off the corner. Will he maintain that momentum? Oh, Marquez got a little bit loose, a little bit squirrely. Blocker to the inside, and Blocker takes the lead.
All it takes, Arjuna, is just a little bit of space for Adam Blocker to make a move, but Andrew Marquez is not giving it up. He's chucking it down the inside into turn 1. Blocker with a power move on the outside, though. He maintains that first position.
And Marquez slowed up and checked up so much on the entry. Will Lyon, the door was slightly open there. He didn't want to force it wide open. It was only slightly ajar, and now what can Marquez do? We saw just how good he was with clean air. He's got dirty air now, and plenty of it to deal with. Behind them...
Oh, Van der Sant.
I think Van der Sant's just letting Brian Spots go. He knows that Andrew Wood is still in with a fight of working his way up through the podium. Might not have been a terrible decision for Van der Sant. But things change so quickly, and we thought Marquez had a great car on the long run in clean air. What does he have now? We're about to find out.
Yeah, I think that might have been just a little bit of inexperience from Marquez on that restart. He just didn't get the type of jump that he needed, and then coming into turn 1, just a very loose race car overall. Might not have quite had the settings where he wanted it, and that's all it takes. That little bit of daylight was all that Adam Blocker needed to get by, and now he is driving off into the sunset here.
Already 1 second clear. Was he biding his time? Was he waiting for the opportunity? Well, he's taken it with both hands. No second invitation needed. On board with Will Lyon as he tries to look a little bit high. That's not a replay. This is running right behind the number 4 machine. Now 1.2 seconds, the gap between first and second. Marquez is just searching for some speed right now, Andrew. It looks like he doesn't know what that car is doing. I wonder if maybe we saw Blocker and in that pit cycle change something with the wing angle of the car, but I would be shocked if that was the case.
Yeah, I think it's just the case of the track changes over the course of the run here and over the course of the race, and Marquez just doesn't look as comfortable as he was. I would almost wonder with that loose condition whether he maybe got into it just a little bit, but just a little bit further back, Arjuna, we have a change for 4th and 5th where Andrew Wood just got around Brian Spots.
Yep, not entirely unexpected, but he is now about 2.5 back from Will Lyon and Andrew Marquez. Can he take full advantage now of this opportunity? A little bit of clean air. He's got Van der Sant in front. Van der Sant's looking rapid as well. Can he be towed forward? as we are under 60 laps to go. If we go green from here, it would be 16 minutes. And that's one of the things about these short tracks, Andrew, that you really have to factor in. If you go green, they're going to be quick races. But if you have cautions, which breed cautions, they slow down, they become very stop and start. And in some ways, I'd even argue those are the type of races which are more mentally taxing than a long green flag run here.
Absolutely, Arjuna. On a restart is where all the action happens at a place like this. Well, not all the action, but a lot of the action happens. You have to make such precise calculations of where you put your car, the types of moves that you can make, and the risks that you can take. It's definitely the most mentally taxing part of a short track race. Once you're into a nice rhythm like we see here from Andrew Wood as he chases down Alexander Van de Sant, this is the type of driving where I'm not going to say it's easier, but what it is you can use each corner to build up towards the next one, and you can listen to the car. You don't have anything unexpected happening. You don't have as many people around you, and it's just much easier to maintain that thing. Now let's look at this replay here. You can see Marquez just doesn't get a very good jump, and Adam Blocker already looking to his inside. I think it just didn't allow Marquez to take the line that he wanted to, and that outside line just didn't have the grip that Marquez was expecting. Comes very close to the wall on the exit of 2, and by the middle of turns 3 and 4, Adam Blocker is already into the lead.
I want to watch his hands. I said he was squirrely. I don't think he's squirrely watching this back. I think he just understeers wide, has to delay that throttle application, and by the time he gathered the car back up, he's just not going to be in time to hold on to the lead. So that's what happened on the restart. And for Andrew Marquez, who had a wonderful pole position, now fighting for second, which should still be a very impressive showing, as he now pulls away 7/10 from Will Lyon in the orange and blue Indy Alliance Racing car. Aaron McQuarrie has come back out of pit lane after spending about 4 minutes and 20-odd seconds down there stationary. Adam Fraser has come down into the lane this time. I wonder if maybe for him that might be day done. Not been an easy day by any stretch of the imagination. Trevor Greenfield, after his slap up into the wall out of turn 2, took 55 seconds of damage repair. Is back out there on track, but is all by himself on a lap. He is 4 laps down from the leader. David Porcelli, next car in front of him. It's only 2 laps, so Trevor Greenfield, it is a recovery drive from here. 2 drivers that are trying to recover. Robin Malechka sliding backwards through the field and now having to bounce back after the pit stop cycle for him. He's fighting with Alexis Newsom, who's battling some technical gremlins. On a short track like this, Andrew, how does that affect the mindset of Malechka behind?
It's definitely distracting for Malechka, but at the same time, one of the things that you have to deal with in internet racing, regardless of the circuit, is sometimes connection issues. So the best drivers on the track can just basically ignore what the person in front of them is doing to a certain extent. Certainly, if you need to avoid them, that's one thing, but really what you need to be doing is focusing on your lines and where you need to be placing your car and basically hitting your braking points and your lifting points and making sure that you're doing everything you can, and then the car in front, particularly when it's driven with someone as conscientious as Alexis Newsom is, you don't worry about them, I think, too much if you're an experienced driver at this stage.
We're watching on board with Malechka as that battle for 7th is on the bottom of your screen. Will Lyon starting to come under fire. Andrew Wood now only about 7/10 back, and it's not like Wood is closed majorly on Andrew Marquez. Instead, what we are seeing is Will Lyon just losing pace in that car. Last time by, the pace was almost the same as Adam Blocker and Andrew Marquez, but now he's got an Andrew Wood in his mirrors, closing bit by bit, and an Andrew Wood with the bit between his teeth as we close in on 40 laps to go. Getting close to the end of this race. The question was this going to be a one-stop race? It looks as though it will be indeed, as Malechka to the inside. Can he make the move stick? Newsom on the outside rubs herself into the wall.
Yeah, very tight up on the wall there. Newsom always does a really good job of giving drivers around her as much room as they need. Maybe just giving a little bit too much to Robert there, but I mean, they were teammates in Lionheart last year in the Lionheart Speedway Series, so it is understandable. But yeah, just to put a pin on that restart that we were talking about earlier, going back and looking at it, it's amazing just how well Adam Blocker anticipated that restart and how close he was coming into turn 1. And that's really a veteran move from Adam Blocker. And I do wonder whether Andrew Marquez might have gotten a slight little bit of wheel spin on that restart when he put the power down that allowed Adam Blocker to be just that close. But it's amazing how those types of moments in a race like this can matter so much for the outcome of this race.
Absolutely, and I think these restarts, the single file restarts, really do mean that you play them very differently to how you would do in, for example, a stock car where you're 2x2, you maybe go with the cars in front here. Of course, if the car in front of you is all the way to the wall, you can't pass. You've got to wait till you get to the start-finish line, and it really changes how you time as the lead car coming onto the power. And we've seen, for example, in other open wheel series, I think back to the race at, I guess it was Mugello, Formula One, I guess it was last year or the year before, where the car in front trying to time things up, causing chaos at the back. I mean, it's an art form, restarting a race, Andrew, and one that if you don't have the experience doing, it's something you just build up through experience.
Absolutely. It takes hundreds and hundreds of restarts to really master the technique for that. You really have to understand the subtle movements of the car in front of you, because you don't know exactly when they're about to go, but particularly when you're in second place, you can tell little movements, little subtle movements of the car in front of you. The other thing, you mentioned that you can't pass fully before the start-finish line, but one of the things that you learn as you get more experience is you can get underneath the car on the outside and complete your pass after the start-finish line. And that's, I think, what we saw from Adam Blocker. He just was able to use that experience to just jump it just that little bit, keep that the car behind the line up until that point, and then he was able to complete the pass basically through 1 and 2 and then 3 and 4 where he finally finished it.
The 4-time Lionheart IndyCar Series champion, who will look to make it 5 when the Lionheart IndyCar Series resumes at the start of March. Join us on March the 2nd for the traditional season opener at the Homestead Miami Speedway. How similar will it be to the race that we saw a couple of weeks ago here in this series? Well, it'll be open setups versus fixed setups, so we'll be very curious as to how the difference plays out, but cannot wait to get Lionheart underway once more. How much are you looking forward to, forget racing, Andrew, building setups for 3 different series and 60-plus races this year again?
Oh, I'm definitely looking forward to Lionheart. I always do. It's such a great series with such competitive drivers in it. There really is no better place to have a fixed race than in Lionheart. The margins are so thin, and each decision that you make matters so much, not just over the course of the race, but where you finish over the course of the year. And like, for instance, last year I got off to a bad start in last year's and could barely recover to get back into 4th in the championship by the end of it. And it's just one of those things where it's the ultimate competitive environment, and really I don't think that there's many better places than Lionheart in terms of leagues to run on iRacing. At the same time, this IndyCar, as we've seen throughout the course of this year, it is also extremely conducive to just producing great racing, race after race, track after track.
You just need to get better in qualifying, Andrew. That's the thing, isn't it?
I mean, I will say this. I improved in qualifying over the course of last year. I started out bad, and I got better. I think I even got a pole last year. So there is that to it.
Much to the shock of your partner as well. I remember her in the YouTube chat going, Andrew doesn't qualify well. It's not just us that ribs into you, don't worry.
Oh, I'm well aware.
And yes, I see a question in the chat. Alexis Newsom is one of the few female drivers we have in this iRacing IndyCar community. We did see this past weekend in the VCO Esports Racing World Cup. What a format that was. 3 days, 3 different platforms, 3 different cars. We went racing on Assetto Corsa Competizione, R-Factor 2, and iRacing. And Emily Jones, well, she took it to the likes of Enzo Benito and the Red Line Might. And if Yas Heat had 3 drivers like every other team did due to illness, they were down to 2 for all 3 of the days. We might have seen Yas Heat really pull a blinder on that final day of competition. Curious what you think, Andrew, about competitions like that, where we love iRacing, don't get us wrong. We love the IndyCar as well, especially now over the last 18 months or so. It's become, I think, many people's favorite car on the service, but there's something about, you know, the fact that we've got such a big sim racing community, opening competitions up to people that compete on all of them and challenging drivers to adapt to what each of the platforms throws at you.
Look, the more sim racing there is out there, the better. The more we can get this pastime, this sport, this simulation, whether it's iRacing, whether it's any simulation out there, there really is nothing like being able to compete with your fellow humans, whether it's on a track in real life or whether it's on a virtual track. There's nothing like the wheel-to-wheel competition that you can get. So the more people that can come out and watch these and get hooked and try it themselves, the better as far as I'm concerned.
Not bad prize pool as well, $50,000 across 3 days. Not a bad weekend's pay, especially when you think about the fact that unlike in other championships where you know what tracks are going to be on the agenda in advance, it's all down to social media. The VCO community had its voice, and, well, it was about 90 minutes before that they found out where they would be racing. All of that work that Andrew Wood has done has got to be done again because he got a little bit sideways through turn 3, and now, well, Will Lyon needs no second invitations. He's extended that gap up to about 0.8 of a second, winding our way to the closing stages of this race, Andrew. 15 laps to go in a couple of laps' time.
Yeah, what you saw there from Andrew Wood was risk versus reward. He just had to take the risks to try and run the car as loose as possible, trying to get every last bit he could to try and find a way by Will Lyon, but at the end of the day, it cost him a little bit. But it really was the case where he has to try everything he possibly can at this point to try and salvage a podium out of this. Because I really do think that Andrew Wood may have just had probably the strongest car here today, but he just has never had that track position to really take advantage of it.
Here's a look at the replay. You can see got below the line, which is where things came a bit unstuck, and that's so easy to do, Andrew. You're just pushing hard, and there you go. It was good car control. He realized he didn't need to overreact because the car very much balanced itself back out.
Yeah, and when you have 18-second laps, 2 or 3 tenths, it is just an eternity. So it doesn't seem like a big mistake, but it costs you so much, and it just puts you just that little bit farther behind. You're not able to use the draft quite as effectively, and it's just made everything so much harder for Andrew Wood in these final few laps here.
There are some lapped traffic, or there's rather some lapped cars in front. Will Lyon will dispose of Alexis Newsom. Can Andrew Wood find a way through the traffic, find a way up in toward the podium spots where he was before the pit stop cycle? Adam Blocker, though, well, he took his chance and has not looked back. 11 laps to go, and Adam Blocker has a 3-second lead. Question for you, Andrew, is what happened that has enabled him to run away? We didn't even see him get very close in the early stages to be able to close on the race leader, but now he's at the front. He's not looked back.
2 words for you, Arjuna: clean air. That is all it takes sometimes to make a car come alive, and I do think that this Power Slide car, it's much better in clean air than it is following behind other drivers. We saw it with Robert Malechka not able to keep up early. We saw that with Van de Sant, that he wasn't able to close up on the battle between Wood and Blocker very well. And Blocker was never really able to put Marquez under a ton of pressure until the tires really fell off. So I think that clean air just made all the difference to Adam Blocker here today, and that's what allowed him to get that gap back to Andrew Marquez.
You can see that now it is separated out very slightly in terms of the traffic for the leader, but of course, picking their way through, Andrew Wood, Will Lyon still. For Alexander Van der Sat and Robert Malechka, Andrew, I mean, it's not like they had bad races. Yes, I still think that Robert Malechka hit the wall early in the race. That may have given him a bit of side pod damage that he's not really been able to recover from, but they just got caught out. They got caught out in a way that even Andrew Wood was lucky enough that the caution flew while he was in pit lane, while he was only 1 lap down, and he was able to get in front of the leaders before they came and put him 2 laps down.
Yeah, and it was a risk that Van de Sant and Malechka really needed to take. They really needed to try and do something different to improve their position, because they were never really going to be able to get by anyone doing what everyone else in front of them were doing. So, like, I don't think that they made the wrong call. I just think at the end of the day, they got caught out by circumstance and an unfortunate caution.
And I think you and I are in agreement here, Andrew. This is what we like about the series. We don't want to see, as entertaining as Lucky Dogs and things make NASCAR, that's not what this is about. This is about taking those chances. Sometimes it pays off, sometimes it doesn't. That's just the way motorsports works.
Absolutely, and IndyCar has always been sort of a bastion of that pure competitiveness. Sure, they have pushed to pass to maybe make some passes a little bit easier, but as you mentioned so often, Arjuna, it's push to defend as well. It's not like DRS in Formula One where the leading car can't respond. So it's definitely, I think, probably for me at least, the most pure form of top-level motorsports that we have going either in the virtual world or in real life as well.
Well, battle for third is done and dusted. It's 1.5 seconds the advantage as through lap traffic, Will Lyon has managed to pull away. But at the front of the field and final time around, here comes Adam Blocker. Patient, and he's worked his way into race contention. And once we had that caution fly, he took his opportunity, and Adam Blocker wins at Richmond Raceway under the night lights to extend the championship advantage and extend his championship domination. He's won more than 10 of these, Andrew, and he's looking good to add one more iRacing IndyCar Open Championship to his extensive IndyCar resume.
It is starting to look rather inevitable, isn't it, Arjuna? He just can't seem to stop winning in these IndyCars, no matter whether it's private leagues like Lionheart or whether it's open competition. Adam Blocker always seems to make those right moves, and he did it once again today on that restart. But I got to give a shout out to just a really, really strong second place from Andrew Marquez. He really showed something, especially in qualifying here today, that there are drivers who are willing to take it to the big teams like i5G, like Powerside, and Marquez is going to be with here.
Pole position for Marquez was a statement as the fireworks go off. Will we see more fireworks from Andrew Marquez in the future? We will wait and see. And hopefully it won't be too long. Here's a look at those race results after 160 laps. Only one caution. Adam Blocker wins by 5 seconds, but that is not the story of this race. By no means discredit the effort from Andrew Marquez. Maybe if a bit more experience on his side had enabled him to time that restart, we're going to be talking about those top two flipped around. Will Lyon holds on to the final step of the podium. Andrew Wood, after starting at the back of the lead lap, coming onto the restart of our first caution. He did work his way up to fourth, but unfortunately too little too late. Brian Spots rounds out the top 5. He got very lucky with the caution, but he will be thrilled with that performance after starting just inside the top 10. Alexander Van der Sant caught out by the caution cycle, as was Robert Malechka, while Alexis Newsom recovered from spinning by herself early in the race to finish in 8th. Laura Gerhard, as well as David Porcelli, round out the top 10, and while Trevor Greenfield is down in 11th, he had a rather valiant run through the field after setting the slowest of the qualifying lap time, was battling for 6th position before his run came undone. Aaron McCrory, the final of our finishing cars, while Adam Fraser called it quits with 53 laps still left to go in this race. Carl Schmidt, the only victim of Alexis Newsom's spin early in the race, but that did not bring out a caution, and what a race it was indeed. Let's head then trackside to Victory Lane here at the Action Track, where we're joined once more by Adam Blocker. And Adam, I mean, qualifying didn't necessarily go your way. You had to be patient, you had to wait until that one and only restart, but from there you did not look back and you got the move done on lap number 1 of the restart.
Yeah, I made a mistake in qualifying. It was really my own fault. Seems kind of normal at this point, but I mean, Andrew did put in a really good lap. It would have been really close to whether I would have beaten it or not. But yeah, I got robbed on the initial start, and I noticed on the initial start that Marquez really struggled the first couple laps on cold tires, and also that it felt like maybe our restart gearing was a little bit better because I was able to get a pretty good launch. So then, you know, I was looking forward to a green flag pit cycle and hopefully be able to come out in front of him, but we didn't get that. I almost beat him off pit road, but then, yeah, I mean, I just, you know, took advantage of the things that I noted earlier and really just was aggressive because it was so hard to pass once the run got going that I knew I had to make my move right then.
And, you know, I mean, it's the final short track of the season. In terms of setups, how difficult is it to build with this lower downforce that we're seeing on these short tracks nowadays? It really means, I think, you've got to be a bit more confident in the chassis that you've got underneath you.
Well, we still have Gateway left, but yeah, this was a really big challenge to build a setup for. I spent a decent amount of time just trying to understand what was going on, and it wasn't really until late yesterday that you know, I found something that worked a bit better, and you know, was really happy with it, and I think some of the time I put into details really paid off because it really, you know, the restart performance was good as well as the long run pace, so that ended up really being key. So
I totally forgot we're going to Gateway as well. That's going to be fun. Really looking forward to the 125 laps there. Couple of road courses left. Watkins Glen, of course, that will be fun. We've seen plenty of fun races there in the past. But Sebring is the one that I'm really looking forward to. It's so bumpy, and it's a test track for these cars in the real world, replicating the street courses. But when you race there, we've raced different formats before, but we're running the full configuration this time around. How much are you looking forward to that?
Looking forward to both of them. Obviously, both of them should have really good participation, kind of rebounding from the last couple weeks. And I think I haven't tested Watkins Glen. Watkins Glen, the reds will definitely fall off a lot, so I'm not sure if it'll be black or if you'll have to qualify in reds for track position, and maybe see some different strategies. And then Sebring, I think, could well be a 2-stop, so there will be a lot of different strategies in play there. So yeah, I think it'll be really interesting. And then, like I said, you know, Gateway and Pocono, 2 classic IndyCar tracks as well. I think it'll be a good final 4 rounds of the season.
And one more question before I let you go. Schedule for next year has been confirmed, or next season, I should say, has now been confirmed. What are the highlights you're looking forward to, other than, of course, the great trip that we'll get to the Nordschleife?
Yeah, I think one interesting one is Road Atlanta. That hasn't been on the schedule for a couple years, and we're going to have a nice 2-stop race there, so that'll be really fun, especially with the new compounds and how easy it is to pass there. And I think it'll be a really great race. You and I had a really good race there a couple years ago. Yeah, and then Long Beach and, you know, some of the staples like Auto Club, Detroit, Indianapolis, always good. But, you know, the ones I really like are Nürburgring, like you said, and Barber, just such a fast technical course, and then Milwaukee Mile. Well, it's the best track in the world. So.
And fits in, of course, with the return of the NTT IndyCar Series, and you'll be busy coming to a new year of that as well, traveling around the U.S. Congratulations on the win, Adam, and we'll see you in a week's time.
Yep, see you then.
That was your race winner, Adam Blocker, but on pole position and leading until that caution flew and really mixed things up was Andrew Marquez. And Andrew, you join us now, and, well, you didn't take the win, but you really showed that Squirrus as a team continues to make leaps forward, and you as a driver continue to grow as well.
Yeah, it's, to be honest, I wasn't really expecting to start as high as I did and perform as well as I did. I was just put in laps, and next thing I knew, when we were in practice, I was just like, huh, the pace is actually pretty good. We might actually have a chance to do maybe a top 5, but I wasn't expecting to start on pole and actually lead for as much as I did. So can't be too unhappy with that. I was hoping to get a win, but Adam was just way too good at the restart.
And one thing he just mentioned to us, Andrew, is that he maybe thought that you struggled early in those runs, and that's why he knew it was important to get the pass done as soon as possible. Is that something that you felt as well?
Yeah, I just was never really comfortable with cold tires. Even on that initial start, I was kind of just babying it until I felt like the tires were warm enough to start pushing. But Once the tires were warm, I just felt pretty comfortable, but on that restart, by the time Adam got in front of me, I had nothing for him. By the time my tires were warmed up, I just couldn't get by with him or close to him with that dirty air, playing a huge factor.
And was it valuable experience? I'm sure it was valuable experience, leading and understanding how it works, going through traffic and trying to time those restarts as well. I think, like you said, you're not too disappointed because there's plenty of positives to take from this race.
Absolutely. Like, just, you know, I'm coming from how things have been leading up to this race. I was probably typically running in the midfield, but to finally get some experience running up front and near the front and actually giving the typical front runners a run for their money, I can be completely proud with that.
You can, for sure. That's an understatement. And, well, hopefully it's the start of continued just upward momentum for you and the team, Andrew. Congratulations, and hopefully we see you in 7 days' time at Watkins Glen.
All right, I'll see you there. Thank you, Arjuna.
That was Andrew Marquez, pole position, and what a drive. Even if it didn't go his way, it doesn't always go your way. That's the reality of racing. Here's a look at the schedule. Again, 4 races to go. We are winding our way to the conclusion of this season. And like I mentioned, next season's calendar has already been set. You can head on over to the iRacing forums to see where we'll be going for 12 more weeks in Season 2 in 2022. But next up, Andrew, is the faster-flowing Watkins Glen. This is fun. This is a place where you really need to maximize speed through the corners, but speed up through the straights as well. It's a place where, like the bus stop chicane, you can come unstuck very easily, and it's a place that is a driver's track ultimately.
This is absolutely a driver's track, Arjuna. It is one of my favorite tracks to drive in a hot lap. Not necessarily had the best luck here in terms of racing, just some unfortunate incidents in the past, but it's one of those tracks where, like, again, you just have to be very, very precise with your inputs, and more importantly, very, very smooth. The bus stop through here, it's such a quick left, right, left, and you have to be so precise where you put your car. Through the toe of the boot and then coming out of it. There's so many iconic corners here, through the S's coming up just after that turn 1, which is a downhill braking zone on lap 1. Everything about this track just screams IndyCar, and it screams action.
And this is a track that has been newly updated on iRacing. For years and years and years, the people have asked, well, iRacing has delivered. People have gotten what they want. New surface data, new curbs, plenty of exciting things. And again, February 6th, same time, same place, live on RaceSpotTV, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. But again, it's time to say goodbye to you here as we wrap things up from the action track. Still got one more short track to go. We'll be racing at Gateway in a couple of weeks' time. Will we see a similar race? Will we see Andrew Marquez convert to victory in 2 weeks' time? Before we say goodbye, a reminder to stay up to date with us on social media. Justin Prince is doing a great job of not just talking about the races that we're going to have, but talking about what's actually happening during the races. So at RaceSpotTV across the different platforms. If you're not already subscribed to us on YouTube, hit that red button, hit the bell next to it to be notified every single time we go live with a great sim racing series that we get to cover. For now, though, it is time to say goodbye. On behalf of the entire team at RaceSpotTV, for our partners at ATVO, Timing 71, and Dougie Beard, I've been joined by Andrew Kinsella. My name is Arjuna Kankipati. We'll see you in 7 days' time, but for now, so long and goodbye.